back to another episode of Life Lessons Unscripted. Today I'm speaking with Beck Billman. Beck Billman was scouted at only 12 years old and launched into what became a dynamic and successful modeling career. Encouraged by narrative photographer Angela Strasheim, she pursued modeling and has since worked across the globe, including South Korea, Australia, Chile, Paris, Milan, and throughout the United States. Her work has been featured in numerous high-profile publications, including Japanese Vogue, Elle Bulgaria, Cosmopolitan Mexico, InStyle Magazine Australia, Diva e Donna Italia, Desnudo Italia, Cake, Hamptons, Kaltblut, Solstice, and Revista Paola. She has also walked for major fashion brands such as Dolce Gabbana, Rachel Zoe, Ralph and Russo, Celia Kritharioti, Ziad Nakad, and Marchesa, as well as shot for a wide range of clients such as Prada, Missoni, RMS Beauty, Guess, Forever 21, Target, Kohl's, and more. Beyond print and runway, she has appeared on television, with featured roles in American Crime Story, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, and The Bold and Beautiful CBS. Now, while continuing her modeling career, she has returned to school, pursuing a psychology major with a minor in environmental science, bringing a new dimension to her journey. Here is Beck Billman.
Hello.
Hi, it's wonderful to see you.
It's so lovely to be here. I'm excited to do my first podcast. So,
Yay! I'm excited to get on with this journey of yours. It seems you've had an excellent modeling career. Your photos are fantastic. And you know what's interesting about your bio that I just mentioned? Gianni Versace was, okay, there's the guy who actually assassinated Gianni Versace, went to my school,
really? Which school do you go to?
the Bishop School.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I don't know.
intense. Okay.
It's kind of like a hush hush there, so if anyone finds
It's
it.
not really something you want to brag about.
No, it just like I just realized it as I was reading that, and I was like, oh, whew.
That's wild. I did not know that. So that's a super fun Gianni Versace fact.
Yeah, he was excellent though. I loved his work.
I'm sure it's not representative of all Bishop School kids.
No, no, we're not serial killers. We're not we're not assassins.
I think you have to kill three people to be a serial killer. So
Really.
I don't know how many you killed, but
Yeah. I think he killed like two people, one person. I don't know.
okay.
Okay.
This is going to turn into a true crime podcast really fast.
Yeah. So you were scouted when you were 12. So how did you, I don't know, how was that like? How did you really get into modeling at 12 years old?
So I actually started getting scouted around 11. And it was a big surprise to me. It was not something I was expecting at all. I grew up in a very academic household. My dad was a doctor, my mom was a speech pathologist. Um, Definitely more on like the like scientific, medical mathy side of things. But I was always like the little black sheep. I was always the artsy kid. And so I was actually going to a fine arts school at the time. So I was already really passionate about the visual arts and photography. And I think the first time I got scouted, I was at the Mall of America in Minnesota, which is a classic place to get scouted. Um, and the thing was at 11 years old, I was already 5'9". So I was really tall really fast. And for reference, I'm 5'11" now. So I actually haven't grown a ton since then. But I had just sprouted up. I was like really tall, skinny. I was in Minnesota. I was super pale. I had this long blonde hair to my butt. Um, so yeah, so I got scouted a couple times, but I thought they were all scams. I just assumed as much. And then it wasn't until I met Angela Strasheim, who she actually approached me when I was out at lunch with my mom, and she explained that she was doing this portrait series for one of the exhibitions she was going to do, kind of trying to capture innocence. So it was very much not a fashion photo shoot. It was more artistically driven. And we looked her up. She was super cool. She had a really interesting artistic style. And so like the art nerd in me, I was like, oh my gosh, of course I'll do this. And it was awesome. I think I did in total like maybe 3 shoots with her. And I just fell in love with the art, the process, how much you can convey in a photo. I also was a musical theater kid, so it's acting, you get to put on costumes and you're acting and trying to convey all this emotion through a still photo, which is an extra challenge. Um, so yeah, she was the one that was like, hey, you should maybe consider like actually looking into this. And I was visiting family in San Diego and we came out. I met with a couple agencies and I was signed, and then that was the end of the story, or I guess the beginning of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's so cool. Tell me more about like the process, about like, I don't really know what a typical time on the set really looks like. How does that look like for you?
So I'm assuming you're referring to a fashion photo shoot.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're here. So yeah, so you show up on time, or actually ideally like a little early because you don't want to be stressed and showing up like panicked. And so you generally are going to start off in hair and makeup. That can take, depending on the look, anywhere from an hour. That's pretty rare. It's generally a couple of hours that you spend in the makeup and hair chair, which is fun because those tend to be the people that you spend the most time with on set, and they're all amazing. I love all my hair and makeup friends. They're so talented and really awesome. And then yeah, then you go into styling. Sometimes before you do hair and makeup, they'll have you fit some of the clothes or figure out if there's any looks that they're not sure about. They'll have you try them on, see if they want to style them differently, or see if maybe they need different sizes of things. And then yeah, you go into styling. Generally, you do like a hair makeup test photo with the lighting set up, see if they need to tweak anything, and then and you just go.
That's great. Do
Yeah.
you do you recall, I know you mentioned that you did some photo shoots with Angela Strasheim.
Mhm.
Do you remember what that felt like? Like how you really like got it? What did you feel as you stepped into this like new chapter of your life, and like what did you learn?
So I think that working with her was a really gentle transition from um, just being a normal kid that is, like most normal kids, kind of uncomfortable around cameras, to being quite comfortable. She did such a good job of putting me completely at ease. She was a young woman as well. And she had just one assistant with her, so it wasn't a big crew. And she was shooting me in my environment. So I wasn't in a foreign environment. I wasn't in a scary studio or anything. It was like, I think the first portrait we did was actually me in my bedroom. And so, I'm like a kid and I'm showing this cool older girl my bedroom, and she was explaining how everything worked, explaining the camera, the lights to me. And so from like an art nerd perspective, I was just really intrigued and excited, and yeah, I was really enthralled by the whole process. So it definitely, it wasn't that abrupt of a transition. I think that probably my first editorial shoot, which was actually pretty soon after starting modeling. That was with Chicago Scene magazine, shot by David Anthony. And that was, I think, actually my first job in general, which was,
Wow.
it was a very high fashion shoot. I still have the magazines, and it's crazy to look through them and be like, I was a baby and I was stepping onto this very high fashion, very professional set. And um, I don't know whether the crew knew how young I was. I think they might have thought I was a little bit older, maybe like 15, 16. Um, but yeah, it was a totally new environment. Everyone was really nice. And I just kind of fell in love with the drama of it all. That shoot, starting with editorial, I had very dramatic makeup, very dramatic hair, dramatic costuming. We were shooting in this really beautiful bistro. It was very dark and moody, and um I was like, this is incredible. Like, it was acting and art and all of these things that I loved just combined into one thing. And I got to play the role of this character that was not me. It was not Beck on camera. It was whoever that girl was. Um, so I was hooked.
Wow, that's interesting that you mentioned like you kind of have this like alter ego person that you become when you get in front
Yeah.
of the camera. If you had
Yeah.
to give her a name, what would you give her? And like what would you describe as her personality?
I mean, she's so many different people, like it depends on the brand. I think that that's probably one of the things that I love the most about, working with all these different brands is um I'm really not a fashion person myself. I generally, when I'm in my own environment, I'm dressing for comfort. You know, I see the potential of clothes that they can be these costumes that you put on and they can give you power or, make you ethereal or whatever. But I think that for me, I like to think of myself as kind of a blank slate. And then I try to research the brands before I work for them and get an idea of what like the soul of the company is. What's the vibe that they're going for? What's the look that they like? What's the emotion that they like? And then I try to bring that to life with my work. So yeah, each job is different. The girl I'm, doing for a very LA chill, hippie, beachy job is going to be very different than the girl that I'm doing for like a high fashion editorial in Milan.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so in some ways, like that modeling process kind of teaches you to mold and kind of become different people, just like acting kind of does.
Oh, 100%. I think that all of the best models are also like phenomenal actresses. And I aspire to be in that category, but I know that I'm, not there yet, but uh it is acting. And if anything, you don't have dialogue to help you. You don't have you don't have, seconds, minutes, hours on screen. You have just one photo and you have to capture so much in that one photo. So, and that's not just all the model. Of course, there's a lot that the makeup artist has to bring, the hairstylist, the clothing stylist, the set designer, the photographer, the lighting team, all any other people that I'm forgetting, but everybody has to pull their own weight, and make sure that that message is able to come through in the photo that you create.
Yeah, listen, I've tried it like maybe like once or twice, maybe three times.
Yeah.
Hard, so hard. Because my first one was when I was like 14 and I was going for Claire's. And it was this
Oh
like
yeah.
it was this big thing. I worked with like these awesome people. But when I got in front of the camera for the first time, and they ended up having me back, so I got like a redo for like the second.
Oh
But like I remember they were like, okay, less stiff, like relax a little bit more. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. I was so stiff, and it was so unnatural.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you said that you had a soft transition into your career with Angela Strasheim, but how did you learn to get like so comfortable with the camera eventually?
I think there's a couple of things, but I think one of the big things is how, I was just talking about I'm playing characters. There's something that almost offers a layer of protection. It's not Beck on camera. It's whoever she's playing. And so I feel like it allows me to have confidence and act in a way that maybe I wouldn't if it was me on camera. And it's funny because, my friends, my family will tell you that when it's me and I'm just hanging out with friends and they try to take pictures of me, I get really awkward, which is completely like it doesn't make any sense because it's what I do for a living. But in that setting, they're taking photos of me and all of a sudden I get a little bit stiff, a little bit uncomfortable. But when I'm on set, I'm not playing myself. I'm in costume, I'm in hair and makeup, and I'm playing a completely different person. So it's really not like, my ego on the line. It's that character. Um, and then also I think that in terms of movement and um, understanding lighting, understanding how to be comfortable on set, I think a lot of it came from and was influenced by the fact that I was in an art school at the time. And my focus was visual arts. So I was taking a lot of classes on, you know, artistic theory and form and function and lighting. And so I don't know if everybody does this, but when I'm on set, I have like a visual projection in my mind of what I look like on the set. So I'm feeling the light hitting me maybe, here, and I'm aware of where the photographer is sitting. So I'm doing these kind of calculations, and in my mind I'm constructing this image of what I think I look like. And that allows me to move in a way that is going to be flattering and is going to work for the scene, for the clothes. You have to be focused on a lot of things. Not only are you trying to make sure that you look okay, but you're also there generally to sell clothing. So you have to be constantly aware of, okay, I have my pants legs ridden up, or is my shirt wrinkled, or, maybe I look really great when I'm super crunched up, but then people can't see the shirt. So you have to find a way to still display the clothes and sell this character while also making sure that everything looks great. So there's a lot of things, going on at once, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's great. That's so introspective too. You have to like get in tune with your character, and then you have to like pay attention to like I never thought about the light hitting the face. That's just
Yeah.
it's so artistic. Obviously it's
I
art.
think that's like, isn't that like a America's Next Top Model thing? Like find your light?
I've never watched that show, but find your light, guys. Find.
I mean, that also, I would say, I didn't watch that religiously, but once I started modeling, I did watch a bit of that. And of course, it's pretty extreme, and it's not a really super accurate representation of the modeling industry as a whole. But um, oh my gosh, I loved like all of their photo shoots are insane, and they're so artistic, and the costumes are wild, and the movements are wild, and they're, you know, jumping off of buildings with crazy rigs. Like I could only dream of doing that kind of shoot. Um, but I think as a kid, I was like so inspired by the art of it all and the performance of it all. So that was also a really fun kind of learning
Yeah.
education television program.
That's yeah, that's cool. I think you're so right about like the TV, like when like some inaccurate representations of certain industries. Um, there's a certain thing about modeling that I know that I've been told as like a child or a teenager listening in on the media, and it has to do with like, there's a lot of stuff about Victoria's Secret and like the runway, the culture in like the early 2000s. And I know that you were probably like a kid in the earlier 2000s, growing up and like hearing all this stuff. Is it This is going to be a tough question actually for me to phrase, but in terms of like modeling having so much to do with a person's image,
Yeah.
how did you don't have to answer this question if you don't feel like it, but did you struggle with any kind of, I don't know, insecurity surrounding
Yeah,
body image, and
of
how did
course. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll try to fumble my way through this answer as eloquently as possible. But of course, um, I tell people my job is a bit different because instead of, while I am selling a product in the form of clothes, I'm also the product that I'm selling. So, other people, you can have a bad day, you can be sick, you can have like a dumb haircut or something, and you can still go to work and you can still, um, be successful. But with modeling, even if you're having a bad day, like your look, like the how you're presenting yourself is key to doing your job. So that's a ton of pressure. You have a bad breakout, you didn't get enough sleep, so you have bags under your eyes. You tried a new shampoo, so your hair's freaking out. Um, I broke my leg this last year and I was out of work for 5 months because like it's really hard to walk in heels if you can't walk. Um, so yes, of course, your body is under an extreme microscope. And you become painfully aware of any imperfections. Like, I know which foot is slightly bigger. I know which leg is slightly longer. I know which side of my rib cage sticks out slightly more, because you've got A, people telling you that, and B, like, there's just so much of you is being examined on a daily basis it's hard to not know that. And women in general and men, of course, there's like huge issues with just body dysmorphia and aging and going through puberty and feeling a little bit foreign in your own skin. But um, I would say it's just magnified when you're also in the fashion industry doing that. And so for me, I started modeling at 12. I hadn't hit puberty yet. I would say I started hitting puberty around 14. So that was challenging because I was going through my awkward stage in the industry while I was actively working. And when I first started, it was still kind of the tail end of the um, slightly more size obsessed era that, happened in the 80s, the 90s with the really, heroin chic, really thin, gaunt models. They weren't looking very healthy. That was the look. And early 2000s, it was also, there was a huge push to be profoundly skinny. So I was still on the tail end of that when I was starting. It used to be that anytime I went into the agency, they would get their measuring tape out and they would measure they would do all your measurements. And my skeleton was changing. My hips were fit, like my bones were growing. And additionally, I was putting on a bit of weight. I was, my baby fat was shifting around. So that was really challenging. And that I think pretty dramatically impacted my body image. And I really struggled with it at that time because, I had agents telling me, oh, your hip measurements are getting bigger. Maybe you need to do something about that. What are you doing for exercise? What are you eating? And I was being made to feel like my measurements changing were affecting my worth or that my hip measurements growing were somehow representative of my value as a person or my willpower, when it was just me growing up. And now, I've been in this long enough that I have much better relationship with the industry, and also the industry has shifted a lot. So now they're trying to celebrate more healthy bodies and be more inclusive and show different body types and have a little bit more realistic representation of what beauty is, and what health looks like. So thank God. I don't know when the last time somebody brought out a tape measure was, but still to this day, if I see a tape measure come out, I like break out in a sweat a little bit because it just was like it was so rough for so many years. Um, but yeah, it's been challenging and eye-opening. It's also different market to market. Obviously, if you're doing fashion weeks, there's going to be maybe some unspoken pressure to be on the thinner side. And then there's other markets where, they won't want you if you're too thin. So you kind of have to change your look based on the market, which is also, or you just hope that the market will like you as you are, which I feel like I generally sit more on that side of things. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's really tough. And I know you're also majoring now in psychology and you're in school and you're probably learning a lot about adolescence and the psychology when you're in your adolescent years. I obviously don't know anything about that. I'm just taking a class in my high school.
Yeah, of
I know it's a really volatile time. It's hormones,
course.
you're changing, you're growing, you're adapting, your what's it called? Your perception of the world based on your interactions. Like that must be really tough to grow up and be hearing all that kind of stuff in one time.
Yeah. It was a rough time. It was a challenging time, because I also, on top of all that pressure, I was also trying to work and go to school at the same time. I stayed in public school the whole time. So that was incredibly challenging. Hindsight 2020, would I have done it the same way? Probably not, but I was stuck because I wanted to take honors and AP classes, and those just weren't available at the time through online or homeschool programs. So I think we did the best with what we had. And but yeah, I was drowning in makeup work and I was struggling with like the normal teenage insecurities and, teenage relationships and school and, feeling also a little bit outcast because I think that, in school, modeling was something that made me interesting, but it also made me maybe less relatable to a lot of kids. So I found it was tricky for me to feel like I really fit in and was accepted in school. So yeah, it was a challenging time. I mean, it's challenging for anyone, and I think that that's why I have so much empathy for people that navigate like child actors that navigate working through their teenage and their awkward years and then go into, their adult years working. It's hard to be aging like on camera. So yeah.
Yeah. I just want to give you a heads up. There's
Yeah.
like 8 minutes left in this meeting.
Okay.
I will stop us at like the 2 minute mark, and then we'll join another meeting. We'll take a chill pill, and we'll join another meeting and
Okay.
continue. But I just wanted to
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
that's
Yeah.
gonna stop.
Okay, great.
Yeah, like I totally get the child actor situation. I know, that's so interesting that you mentioned that how like that relatability seems to be a little bit less because not every single kid at your public school had gone through that experience of modeling for high fashion stuff, and it's so cool. But I also, to some extent, relate a little bit because like obviously now I'm in high school and I go to like a really tough academic school, and it's been
Mhm.
hard to continue acting um just because I just don't have time to take on like the
Yeah.
tough big projects. And it's also become a thing of like many people can't relate to it, and it's, I don't know, I know there's a lot of other child actors and models that are in schools. What would your advice to them be?
Hmm.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one because I think fundamentally there's just going to be a large percentage of the population that are never going to be able to relate to what you do, that are never going to be able to understand. I mean, I dealt with some bullying from fellow students, but honestly, the hardest time I had was with teachers bullying me. Teachers that singled me out and were making my life an absolute living hell because they didn't like that I was different. They didn't like that I was, missing school and missing their classes for something that they didn't value as a career. Um, so I think I stuck with it because I didn't want to let them win. And I wanted to stay in school and I wanted to continue with my extracurriculars and do all of the things and not have to sacrifice anything. But I really think that what I ultimately sacrificed was my mental health. And so if I was talking to a 12-year-old kid that was getting into acting or modeling, um, I would say that, since COVID, one of the silver linings is there are a ton of online or alternative school options online now. So, or in person, or you can go to community colleges, which are amazing. There's just so many more resources. So I would say that even if your education looks slightly atypical, it doesn't look like a typical public school or private school or whatever situation. Um, it's okay. What really matters is that you are taking care of yourself. You're happy, you're healthy, um, and you're learning. And so whether that's learning in a public school or online or whatever that looks like for you, I think that that should be the priority, not sticking with the standard. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually. Yeah, that's great. So, we've gone through the challenges, I'm assuming, of being a child model. What are the hardest things about being a model like now?
Hmm. I mean, right now,
I
right now,
guess.
I am once again in school and working, so that's challenging. Um, No, I actually feel like this is like funny, but like you know how like in a relationship or like a good relationship, you have like the honeymoon period where you're super excited, and then that kind of melts away and you get to see the nitty-gritties of each other and you're like, "Oh my gosh, okay, this is getting real." And then once you get through that, you like hit that groove where you're like you figured out how to kind of live and let live and have this symbiotic relationship and take the good and leave the bad. I feel like I'm at that like you know, 10, 15 year married mark. Where, I mean, it's been 17 years of working. So of course there's still, things that I don't love, but for the most part, I think I have a much healthier relationship with it. Um, I always say like, so long as it can fit into my life and I can still be healthy and I can still be happy, I'll continue doing it. Like, it's great. It brings me joy. I get to hang out with really cool people and travel, and make money. But, the second that it's taking more away from me than it's giving me, I can walk away. I've had a great career. I know that I've been incredibly lucky and um I don't want to walk away, but if I have to, I would. So it doesn't have power over me. And my mom used to always say something that I thought was brilliant back then, but it took me a while to like really understand it. She used to always say like modeling is what you do, it's not who you are. Which is incredibly wise for somebody that has never worked in the industry. But I think she saw how it can become, such a cornerstone of a person's identity and how dangerous that can be because it is a somewhat fickle relationship, in that, something can happen, like you breaking your leg or you getting in an accident and you can lose it overnight. It's not going to be loyal to you just because you've been in it for years. And the industry changes, the desires of the industry change. So you have to have that healthy relationship with it. And I think you also have to have enough else going on in your life that if you lose that one element, you're not left with nothing. I think that if it's your core identity and that's everything you are, if you were to lose that, it's going to be way more devastating. And also when you let the what you do for work have that power over you, it's going to have, it's going to impact your mental health, your body image, all of that so much more because it's kind of like an abusive relationship in that way.
Yeah, that's really wise, actually. On that topic, is your mom one of your biggest inspirations growing up? Do you have like any models you looked up to, or like siblings, parents, things, people, not things, people you look
I
up
mean,
to?
I definitely look up to my mom and my dad and my brother. They're all incredible people and so smart and, very different from me in a lot of ways, also similar to me in a lot of ways. We do share blood and it took particularly my dad a while to come around on the modeling thing because for him and in the way he was raised, academics were everything. And um, they didn't place much value, his family didn't place much value on what I was doing. I think it was maybe somewhat seen as a waste of time or like just a fun hobby. But uh, but since then, I think since I've been doing it so long and they've been able to see that I've had, some great success and I've had a really like a wonderful career, I definitely a lot of the people that were a little on the fence have come around. And now my dad's a huge supporter and my mom has always been my biggest supporter. She was the one that was, she came to South Korea with me because I was 15 when I went there. And she came and visited me in Australia and all around the United States when I was underage. She was the one that was traveling with me and driving me up to Los Angeles for castings, and it was insane. Um, but yeah, so she was amazing. Um, and in terms of my like any model inspirations, I think that because I kind of started in the same era as like Carly Kloss, she was also um quite young. She started, I think, at 13, maybe. Um, and so I was really inspired by her because not only was she an incredibly talented model, but she was smart and she wasn't afraid to show that she was smart. She had priorities outside of fashion, and she would also be, I think I remember hearing that she also was like crocheting backstage or doing homework backstage at shows, and I was like, that's me. Like I also crochet and do homework. So um that, for a young girl was a really good role model, because it seemed like she also had a really healthy relationship with the industry.
That's good. Yeah. Um, I don't know much about Carly Kloss, but she sounds awesome.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know as much as I should, but I think she's super smart, and I know she's super active in like the, women in STEM industry. And now I think she started some sort of a organization for teaching girls coding and programming, which respect, it's not for me, but that's what my brother does. And like I'm so proud of him, but I don't understand it. I did take a Java class and learned enough to get by, but I don't think I'll be pursuing a career in that anytime soon.
Me neither. I cannot code. I cannot do anything there.
It's very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad does that. He sits by the computer and it's just like, and I'm like, how do you do that all day? He's like, it's like playing a game. I'm like,
Yeah.
like, whoa.
More power to them.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
for it, bro. Not me.
Yeah.
So, what does a typical day look like for you as a model? Like, give me a quick, like, day in the life of Beck Billman.
Well, I think a thing to note is that modeling is it's very intermittent. So it's not an everyday job. It's not a 9 to 5, 5 days a week. You'll have some weeks where you're working every single day, or you'll have some weeks where you're not working at all. So that alone can be really challenging, because you have no consistency in your life. So it makes having a schedule, having relationships, having another job, planning vacations, stuff like that, it makes it really challenging. Um, but yeah, so I guess the day in the life, it really depends on um, the season and also where I'm working. Because if I'm working in Milan, my day is going to be very different because most of the jobs are outside of Milan. So it's generally waking up at 3 a.m. and, getting myself to the train station and then getting on the train and then sleeping on the train and waking up in some, beautiful place in Italy, and then, finding my driver, finding a taxi, whatever, getting to work, and then working, and then after work either going back to Milan by train or getting on another train, going to another place and staying in a hotel for a shoot in, another city the next day. Um, in Los Angeles, it's a lot easier because I'm so close. So yeah, um yeah, you just, I wake up early just like the rest of us and eat breakfast. I guess the main difference is that I don't go to work with a full face of makeup and my hair done. You do it there. Um and yeah, generally I'll try to like eat a higher protein breakfast just to help get me through the day, because modeling is a surprisingly physical job. Even if you're shooting e-commerce in a studio, putting on and taking off, 100 outfits is exhausting. You're bending over, you're sitting down, you're standing up, it's just nonstop movement. And then for sure for editorials, sometimes you're jumping around, you're doing crazy stuff. And those days I come home and I am like flat out. I can't do anything but lay on the couch. So
Yeah, that sounds obviously you're burning so much energy when you're just like taking on.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What would be your modeling essentials? Like a fun question. Like products, clothes. I don't know, do you have a special like bag that you carry everywhere?
I, you know, I'm, I know that normally you ask these questions to fashion people and they're like, this is my bag, my fully stocked Prada bag that has everything. I am not that organized, but I generally have a bag with me that has, at least a concealer, either a lip balm or a lip gloss, and mascara. Um, generally you always want to have spare like hair ties because you never know when you're going to be asked to put your hair up. Um, and water. I always have like the largest water bottle with me, and I'm so sad because I left it at my dad's house, so I don't have it right now. So I'm like, my hydration is not as great right now. But yeah, that and then, in my car, I that's kind of my informal shoe closet. I have a nude strappy heel. I have a black strappy heel. I have a black stiletto. I have a nude stiletto. I have, I think, a gold stiletto. I have, my Converse that are like my day-to-day shoe. I have, a Nike Cortez. Um, and generally there's also a pair of like, more like black kind of combat boots. Um, but it's great to just have those so that if you need them, sometimes you're, doing a show and like, God forbid the shoes don't fit. If you have shoes in your car and they don't care that it's not the same brand, that can be really valuable. And sometimes you'll have clients that ask you to bring your shoes. Um, but those are probably the biggest essentials. Also a book. Like I always have a book with me because there's a lot of downtime. So I used to crochet a lot, so I always had crocheting in my bag. Now it's more books. Maybe if it's a long day, a phone charger. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's
Makeup,
great. Hmm?
makeup remover is great to have.
Oh yeah.
Like, especially, I just generally have one of those little, uh, I can't pronounce it, micellar waters, micellar waters,
Yeah.
and the, little cotton rounds or, some sort of a face wash because sometimes you have crazy makeup after a job and your skin just needs a break.
Oh
So,
yeah, I saw that picture on your Instagram with like you had like blue like
yeah.
one side of your face. I was like that probably took like 4 hours to get off, probably more.
That was funny. And that was what with like, oh my gosh, I loved working with that photo team. That was down in Chile. And it was funny because we were shooting in like probably one of the biggest, uh, most popular parks in Santiago. So there were a lot of people that were walking around like, why is this girl painted blue? Also in Chile, which was way worse than the blue one, was I did this campaign for, uh, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. I'm so bad with remembering the names of clients. I can't remember. I'm so sorry, but it was a makeup campaign and we were shooting a commercial and they did these like circles all over my face. It was like a very like they were showing the, the art that you could do with their products and it was so cool. And I was flying to Milan the next day, I believe. So I was going straight to the airport and I went to take my makeup off and the circles like stained my skin. So I had these like red, yellow, blue circles and like black circles like all over my face. And it just, there was nothing I could do. I was like, okay, I look crazy, but I gotta go.
That's funny. Do you have what's the craziest modeling story from your long career that you have? If you have one.
Craziest modeling story. I have so many jobs where I just have to pinch myself and be like, oh my gosh, like this is what I do for work. This is my job. Like, how lucky am I? Or also like, how crazy is this? Um, it's a lot of that, a lot of the how crazy is this? Um, I think that probably one of my most unique jobs in the recent years, and one of my most fun jobs. I wouldn't say it was crazy by a long shot, but I was actually working with one of my favorite photographers slash besties in Milan or in Italy, Carlo Williams Rossi. And we were shooting a campaign for a company down in, um, it was kind of just out of Naples, heading down, looking at Mount Vesuvius on the coast. So it was kind of Amalfi vibes. And it was we weren't shooting clothes, we were shooting bedding for like sheets and pillows. And I was just kind of, as a model, I was kind of just the accessory for like the main the main situation. So, all day long, I was in like silky nightgowns and hanging out with like my best friends. And we were in this insane villa on the cliffs, overlooking Mount Vesuvius, overlooking the tide pools, like crystal clear water. And, we break for lunch. We're having focaccia and wine and espresso. And it was like the ultimate Italian experience. And, the like real pièce de resistance shot was they actually built a bed out on the tide pools, like in on the reef. um Not coral, but whatever. So it looked like it was floating in the water, and I just went out and I was like laying in it, and they were doing these drone shots of me in this bed in the water, which was so cool. And I had a job the next day somewhere in northern Italy. So I had to get the train back. And the last train of the day left at like 6 or 6:30 or something. And we were running late. And it was rush hour. So the production team came to me and they were like, "We're so sorry to do this to you, but if you need to make that train tonight, we can't drive you because you're not going to make it there in time. So we're going to have to send you with the art director on the back of his Vespa." And I was like, "Okay." And so, I got my helmet on, and it was like from my era, the Lizzie McGuire movie in Rome, where she's like on the back of the Italian scooter and they're zipping through the towns. I mean, it was breathtakingly beautiful, like such a pinch me moment. I'm just on the back of this scooter. We're zipping through cars. We're cutting along the coast on the ridge line. There's just like water on both sides. It was incredible. And I caught my train. So
That's
that
good.
was probably one of my most fun, like just memorable job experiences. It wasn't particularly crazy. It was just awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, I usually like to end each podcast episode with something fun, like a little game.
Okay.
So we're gonna play Smash or Pass Fashion Edition. We're not gonna use real people, obviously.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you trends, fashion trends, I think, or items from varying eras of fashion. And you're gonna say smash if you'd bring it back or you like it or you want it to continue, or you're gonna say pass if you wouldn't. And
Okay.
yeah, okay.
All right.
So to start, hippie style, tie-dye.
Oh, smash. I have a tie-dye shirt just in a box over there.
Yeah,
Love tie-dye.
I I would skip, but I think you would look smashing, smashing.
I definitely have like a strong hippie vibe deep in my core. So
Sequins. Like fabrics with sequins on them. So like sequin dresses, sequin skirts, sequin tops.
I did a show the other day that there was like a full-length gown that was like very loose fitting. I don't know. I didn't figure out what the brand was. I thought it might have been Cucinelli, and Cucinelli is probably one of the only brands that I have worked with that knows how to do a classy sequin. That being said, like their sequins smash. Pretty
Love.
much every other sequin in the world, hard pass.
Yeah, I loved sequins when I was a kid. Have you seen those like Justice had those like pictures of things that had sequins on them and you would you
Yeah.
would rub them up, rub them down and they would say different things.
Yeah, we had a pillow in my apartment that was Jeff Goldblum on one side, and like I don't know what was on the other side, but it was always on the Jeff Goldblum side.
Um, Jorts.
Are we talking like Daisy Dukes?
Yeah, sure.
Jean shorts. Yeah, like short. Yeah, then smash. That's pretty much what I wear all summer long. So
Yeah. Also, like the Adam Sandler, like long,
Oh,
big. What about those?
I'm gonna say do what you want. I've seen a couple that are cute, but in general, pass.
Um, Chokers or crop tops? like chokers and crop tops together?
Crop tops smash. It's great for people like me that have a long torso because you can just cut your shirt off and say that it was intentional. Um, and chokers, they have a time and a place, but I don't like it when they're overdone, so I'm gonna say pass.
Okay. Low-rise jeans. This one's a hot topic.
This is a controversial one because so there's like I know that the early 2000s are coming back in fashion and people are doing low-rise jeans, but I haven't seen any low-rise jeans in stores that are actually low-rise by my standards, which were early 2000 standards, where you have the, 1 inch zipper and it cuts into your hip bones and it's very revealing. So the 1 inch zipper pass because the muffin top does not need to come back. Not a cute look for anyone, and it doesn't matter who you are, what your body type is, you're gonna get one. We all get muffin tops, and it's not cute. Um, if it's a more of a like mid-rise, low-rise, I have a couple pairs of jeans that, yeah, like they make your butt look cute and little and into that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. On the topic of 2000s, tracksuits like Juicy Couture, that's coming back.
I got to work with Juicy Couture for a few years, and so I got to know their brand really well. I mean, I'm a girl. I love comfort, so I would say smash in that respect. I will say velour is tricky, and it gets if you don't treat it very well, it can get really nasty looking really fast. So I don't know if we've like improved our velour technology, but so tentative smash.
Tentative smash. Love that. Love that. On the topic of jeans, actually, earlier, skinny jeans.
Pass, straight to hell. Never come back. I want to burn all my skinny jeans. I still have to own, black skinny jeans because of work, but if I could, I would just light them up. They should not exist.
That's funny. I hate skinny jeans too. I do not know. Actually, you know what I've seen? They're coming back. They're coming back. I see them on like my TikTok and people pair them with like riding boots and like, whew, no.
I do that in the wintertime. I do my like black skinny with the riding boots and it makes me feel equestrian. But other than that, no.
Oh, on the topic of that, riding boots. Do we like? Do we not like?
I like them because I like anything that makes me feel horsey because I'm a horse girl at heart. But yeah, yeah, smash. I would give the nod to like a cowboy riding boot, but yeah.
Yeah. Uh, what do you think about like sweatpants, like the big sweatpants, like athleisure?
I mean, I'm wearing a pair currently. So I would say they're so comfortable. I do think that COVID killed the fashion industry a little bit because it really shifted everything to athleisure, which as a lover of comfort, it's great, but it is good to put real pants on every once in a while. So I do think that athleisure should stay in your home or at the gym for the most part. Once again, live your life, do what you want. I'm by no means a fashion guru and I honestly don't care, but I do think that the people that always look like they're heading to the gym and yet they never go to the gym, like I'm just like, come on, man, like jeans are great. Like find a pair of comfortable jeans or like yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know. I don't know where I heard this, but someone was talking about how they were in Japan and like the in Japan the uniform policies are so strict. You have to wear the tie, you have to wear the blazer, the button-up
Yeah.
shirt. And it was shocking to them that kids go to school wearing their sweats and just like I mean again it's comfortable, but they were like you go to school wearing that pajama situation? We're like, yeah, yeah. And they're like, oh my God.
I
Yeah.
think there should be a little bit of a separation. It's kind of like how I really think that it's important to like leave the house. You know, like I think that there should be a line between your home clothes and your outside clothes. And when you blur those lines, all I can say is like for me personally, it's not the best thing for my mental health, self-esteem. I will say though, the reason I bought these wide leg pants was because when I had a broken leg. I had a boot on for months and I had to go out and buy a ton of just like wide leg sweatpants because that was all I could wear. So they really saved me. So I'm really grateful that they were in fashion when I did that. But um yeah, yeah,
That's good. Yeah, I have a uniform at school, so it's
oh,
nice to have that
yeah,
separation. I get it.
yeah.
Uh, how do you feel about flannel and the grunge?
I love flannel. Hard smash. I think that if I could just move out to the woods and only wear a cotton flannel every day for the rest of my life, I would be really happy. So,
That's good. Okay, this one's gonna start moving into hair because why
yeah,
not?
why not?
The butterfly, like layered, big, voluminous blowout, like Rachel from Friends style hair.
Well, I'm not so up on hair trends, so I'm just going off of the Rachel from Friends thing, and I think I love a layer. I love a messy, tousled look. I think that the Rachel look required a lot more like blowout, heat styled, polished, which is like maybe not my style because I my hair gets enough, heat at work. I when I'm not working, I just want to let it exist. But for the general population, I think yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool. Fine.
very short bob.
I mean, I had one previously, so yeah, yeah. If you go to my Instagram or my portfolio, you'll see a lot of the short bob look. Not a pixie cut, but it was a bob. And then there was a little misunderstanding when I was getting my hair cut in Italy and it got a lot shorter, but I loved it, like kind of the boy cut. Once again, on the more tousled side, it was great. It was just a bit limited because other than like straightening my hair and curling my hair and slicking my hair back, those were kind of my only three options. And um, also, I have really thick hair, so it was like, and it grows really fast, so I was having to cut it all the time. So this is having it longer is definitely more low maintenance for me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, for mostly guys actually, because this is something that I talk about with my friends at school. Buzz cuts.
Pass.
Yeah.
No, you look like you had lice and you cut your hair off. Like, please no.
On top of that, bleached and buzz.
I haven't seen it a lot, but I would say pass, but I would say maybe more of a smash than just a plain buzz cut, because at least it seems like you tried to do something edgy and stylish.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the people I think who I've seen do it are swimmers. So when they get in the water, the chlorine gets in their hair and it turns green. And it's
Yeah. Yeah, that was me too, so I get that.
last one, mullets.
Okay, so I hard smash. I can't and I can't even like I'm not gonna say that I'm proud of that, but I love them. They make me happy. And like, you know what, with how crazy the world is, like there's so much to not be happy about. So anything that strikes joy, you should embrace. And I love a mullet. I'm not afraid to say. I also really love a mullet on a girl.
Hmm,
So, which is maybe more controversial, but yeah.
I've
I
never
don't like
seen
when they're too fluffy on the top, but like a curly mullet, oh,
it.
beautiful. Pair it with a mustache, like I'm sold.
That's
I'll
so
put my
funny.
flannel on. We can go to the woods together. It'll be great.
Chop some wood.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna stop. Wait, actually, no, we're not gonna stop the recording. Thank
Okay.
you so much for coming today. I had a great time talking with you.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun getting to chat and hang out.
Yay! Okay.